What's going on, Chicago Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. And put on my glasses here so I can actually read what's going on. We got a couple of updates with Zach LaVine, Tony Bradley, as well as some potential Bulls targets in PJ Tucker and some other things that could affect some of the targets that the Chicago Bulls could go after once free agency opens. We'll get into all that and more on tonight's special episode of Chicago Bulls Central.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
All right, Bulls fans, so we're going to start off with Bulls news here first to get it out the way. First off, it is now expected that Zach LaVine will be in a meeting with the Bulls front office at the start of free agency to hammer out a deal is the way that it was expected right away at the start. So as that's already been reported, we can expect Zach LaVine to sign that extension with the Chicago Bulls at a five-year, $212 million contract very early in free agency, which then allow the front office to focus on some other things. Now, again, we're going to see a lot of reactions from this from the Bulls community, and I really can't wait. You have the anti-maxers, the people who were adamant that Zach LaVine should not get the max. Even people saying, well, they never gave Mike this. Why would they give it to Kobe? Listen, or Kobe, to LaVine. With that, Kobe definitely ain't getting the max. But with that being said, so it's going to be just an interesting time to see how the Bulls community reacts once this deal becomes official. And, I think once some other deals fall in line for the Chicago Bulls, hopefully, for anyone who is angry or things like that, it does go away. But at the end of the day, what was always expected at the beginning before we got Clutch Sports doing their thing is Zach LaVine is looking to re-sign with the Chicago Bulls. Now, we did get another announcement of a player that I know some Bulls fans are going to be more upset with. Some are going to be happy with, especially if we do add more to the front line. But Tony Bradley has opted in to the second year of his contract, a little over $2 million a year deal. Now, what does that mean for the Chicago Bulls as far as free agency? He always was expected to opt into that deal. It didn't really make sense for him to hit the open market at all too much, considering the season he had. So he opts into that deal. And one thing with the Chicago Bulls, it doesn't really affect their flexibility too much, in my opinion. You look at Tony Bradley's contract, $2 million, it's a little bit over the vet minimum. Really, the Bulls can cut it if they need the space. Now, that wouldn't save them money, but if they do end up needing the roster space, they can cut him, give him his money, let him go about his business. Or there are a lot of teams out there with smaller trade player exceptions or just a little bit of cap room that we could potentially look to trading that into that cap space and then them cutting him to do some type of flexibility that way. We saw a similar thing with Kemba Walker at the draft, in which Kemba Walker was traded to Detroit. They're going to be buying him out, and really that just saves the Knicks a whole bunch of money. Now, the Bulls don't have enough to really entice a team hugely with that. Maybe a future second, maybe a team that signs a Troy Brown Jr. or something like that. We can include it in something like that. We'll see what the Bulls end up doing. AK and Eversley are very creative with that. If they do end up needing that roster space, they can get it. It's going to be easy for them to get that additional roster spot if they do need it by cutting Tony Bradley. So we'll see what happens with that. Nothing too major there with the Chicago Bulls. Now, we did get some updates from around the NBA. First one that I do want to mention and go off of is that Zubac has re-signed with the Los Angeles Clippers. This all but locks in the fact that Hartenstein is going to be a free agent, and the Clippers probably aren't going to be able to match his deal at all. So with that being said, Hartenstein is definitely a player that I honestly think that the Bulls should focus on. When you look at all his advanced metrics, what he can bring, I really like the idea of him more so than spending. Now, if you can get a Bobby Portis, if you can get Mitchell Robinson to accept that mid-level exception and come in, do it. Those two players I definitely put above Hartenstein, but in my opinion, right after those two, it should be Hartenstein coming in. I don't want to hear shit about DeMarcus Cousins. I don't give a damn about none of that. Look at his advanced analytics and everything. You will fall in love with him as a player on both. And even people say he doesn't provide enough rim protection. So there's two different types of rim protection. There's absolutely shot blocking, but there's also playing good enough defense to where teams find it difficult to get to the rim and they get difficult shots there. Zubac provides both of those at varying levels. So I'm not Zubac. Hartenstein provides those at varying levels. So I really do look at him as being somebody the Chicago Bulls should definitely go after. Now, another potential Chicago Bulls target in PJ Tucker is now being reported that he is going to accept Philadelphia's offer and not go back to Miami, or he'll end up going back to Milwaukee as well, as something that's rumored in here. So we'll see what's going on with that. That's another, again, a player that I had pretty much said, because of what he was going to command out on the free agent market, was going to be somebody that the Bulls weren't going to spend the full mid-level exception on. At least I didn't think that. I know some people did think that it was going to be it, but that's it. So, PJ Tucker, all but certain not to be a Chicago Bull right now, and it kind of just makes sense. Like, right, we'll see what happens with Justin Lewis. We'll see if he actually ends up on the actual roster, because if he does, yeah, he's not as a surefire thing. He's not the defender. He's not as fiery. He doesn't have the veteran savvy, but I do look at Justin Lewis as somebody who can definitely come in and provide us a lot of things that we need coming in, playing that backup 3-4 position for the Chicago Bulls. But yeah, so Zubac signing a 3-year, $33 million extension with the Los Angeles Clippers. And so, like I said, that all but wraps it up, is the fact that he's Hartenstein is not going back to the Clippers. Now, also on the other front, we do have Jalen Brunson is all but certain to get a huge deal from the New York Knicks, and it's also being reported that the Mavericks are expecting to lose him in free agency. So what does that mean that they do? Do they go out there, try to be more aggressive? We heard that Cam Reddish is available as well, and the Knicks are trying to move him for a team that can possibly absorb his salary. So as the Knicks continue to cut costs, to possibly re-sign Mitchell Robinson, which is weird, who benefits from them? I wouldn't call it a fire sale, but for them sending off players that, hey, got something left in the tank. Cam Reddish still a very young player, still has a lot of room to grow and development. I kind of compare it to like the Marvin Bagley thing, and the Kings kind of giving up on Bagley, even though he did still have a lot to show as well and some growth to do. But it's just going to be an interesting time. This free agency is getting off to a kicker, and the free agency hasn't even officially opened yet, right? That's what's crazy with all this, is that the free agency isn't yet to open. As we get ready for the free agency to open up on the 1st, it's going to be a wild ride, and I can't wait for it. I'll be streaming live as well. We'll go over some things that happened there, but be on the lookout for that. Let me know anything else down below that you would like to see me cover, any free agent news, things like that. Going to be an interesting time. But thank you for tuning in to Chicago Bulls Central on this special episode. Make sure you're following the show at Bulls Central Pod. You can also send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullscentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave us a text and our voicemail to sound off on anything said on the show or anything going around the NBA, the number to do so is 773-270-2799. Thank you for tuning in to Chicago Bulls Central. Like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.